Am I the asshole telling my daughter it's her own fault she missed out on her dream college? Edit number 2. This is only the second edit. Not sure where everyone is getting the narrative that I ever mentioned anything about an eating disorder. That never happened. Nor do I understand how it's hard to understand that we pulled her from therapy for lying to her therapist that she had an imaginary friend. Therapy won't help if you lie, or exaggerate to their own entertainment. My daughter is 24 now. The concussion and graduation was years ago. The argument was around a week ago. I see people calling me Tiger Mom. If it makes me a Tiger Mom to expect my daughter do and turn in her work and keep up with her classes, sure. But also we're white. I'm also disgusted by everyone saying I hate my daughter. She is the light of my life. I gave up everything for her happily. I moved because she deserved better opportunities in MA than in NC, leaving behind my parents that we both loved. I'm frustrated, yes, and I'm not perfect, but she is my first and only baby. I've loved her since I first found out I was pregnant, since I first met her, felt her. Yes, I'm frustrated. Incredibly frustrated. I grew tired of being the bad guy and having my love be spat in my face, and when she moved out I got tired of her spinning the narrative to strangers and family alike. This may show in my responses as dripping with contempt. We never placed her in therapy again, no, and not just for her lying to her childhood therapist. It was her aggressive behavior, threatening other students, and screaming, but then immediately playing nice to the teachers when confronted. It was her lying to guidance counselors and teachers through the years. One time she broke down crying, telling a teacher that she didn't want to go home, all because the teacher had called me that she tore up another student's work, aka she was going to be punished. It was the constant hypochondria. She was constantly sick and throwing up, but rarely in front of us, and she rarely had a quantifiable fever over 100. Mary would go to extreme, illogical lengths to get what she wanted, and we were the ones hurt in her efforts. Constantly called into meetings with the schools, taken aside by doctors, family friends asking if Mary was, okay? She's not depressed. Or autistic. Nor does she have anxiety, ADD or ADHD, or any other disorder. I'm not arguing against any judgments, but she had a happy childhood. Lots of love, affection, attention. She was an only child for Christ's sake. Support maybe not in the form that she wanted, but still lots of support. Just because she didn't want the kind of support she got doesn't mean it wasn't there. There was no reason for her to be depressed. CPS even investigated the home and found there was no abuse. Case closed. I'm not an abuser, I'm a tired mom who did everything she could. The argument from last week which started this post was because I asked her what she was doing for school these days, as she is 24 and still hasn't finished a degree. In turn, she completely blew up on me in a similar fashion as some of these comments. First edit to add. She was put in therapy because she started acting out after moving states. Not because of the imaginary friend. The point is that she never had an imaginary friend until the therapist asked us about said friend and we confronted Mary about it. She admitted to making it up then. When my daughter, Mary, was a senior, only a little into the school year, she passed out in the kitchen. Conveniently after I went to work and while her father was still asleep, her usual time to get sick. He never heard any bang. I use air quotes only because Mary has always been very dramatic and thrived off attention. At one point, we debated getting her checked for some sort of disorder, but ultimately decided not to because she was skilled at manipulating doctors to believe her lies even as a child. Example. At 6, Mary had this whole imaginary friend that, when her father and I confronted her, she admitted was made up. We pulled her from therapy then. During all her school years, she was a terror. We were constantly embarrassed in the guidance counselor's office, pleading our case as parents doing our best. She didn't turn in her homework, she had behavioral problems, she was sick, more than anyone I've ever known to be. But back to the concussion. Immediately after the incident, Mary planted herself face down on the couch and texted me. Apparently screens didn't bother her too much then, that she hit her head. I kept asking what happened and she said she didn't know. I called her and she kept saying the same thing, that her head hurt. She stayed on the couch until the bus came and went. When her father got up and saw her there, he ended up taking her to the doctor at their first available appointment where she was diagnosed with a concussion. It lasted past Christmas. She was cleared to go back in November but only for half days, but we both worked until 4 p.m. or later. While I tried to get her to try going back for full days, she gave up and claimed it hurt too much, so we let her stay home to heal. Well, as you can imagine, with less than half the time of the other kids, Mary's academic success was bottom of the barrel. Plus she had to drop out of her AP courses, being too far behind. Add in the fact she slacked and slept entire days away while sick, constantly, and her college pickings were slim. We doubted she would get many acceptances honestly, but she did manage a scholarship to her dream college that halved the costs. She'd never mentioned it before. We got as far as orientation before we realized even with the scholarship and financial aid, we couldn't do the cost. I did my best and brought her to the bank for a loan, but she couldn't get what she needed. She has never forgiven us, constantly claiming that we should have saved more, rather than she should have applied herself, or managed her time better to get a job. I told her that she brought this on herself, that we warned her this would happen, and that she could have put in more effort. I said, every assignment you never turned in is $1 you pissed away. She hasn't spoken to us since, and she's ignored every time I or her father tries to reach out. I have only ever seen shitty partners posting about their partners with this amount disdain on this sub. Like, do you like your daughter? Have you considered what went wrong on your end for your daughter to act like that since she was 6 years old? Did you go to therapy to become better parents? You are the asshole. Despite living in chronic pain from a concussion she got months ago, which must be draining enough, it sounds like she is also dealing with mental health issues since long before it that you let slip on some toxic nonsense she's faking everything. Get your daughter help. And on top of it she somehow got a scholarship to her dream college and you squish that for her too and make it her fault that you didn't actually do your job and parent her? You saw your previous attempts weren't something that actually changed the behavior, so why would you keep grounding her when it didn't change the situation? Why aren't you trying something different? So your daughter has an orthostatic intolerance condition, like 25% of women under 25, which makes her prone to fainting. She fainted and hit her head. She then received a real diagnosis of a head injury from a real doctor. That real doctor instructed her to stay home from school for, you don't actually give a time frame, but for a period of weeks or months. That all makes sense so far. Her grades suffer. Despite this, she not only gets accepted into, but gets a scholarship for, her dream college. That must have taken hard work. And you believe that she somehow masterminded this great plot against you because she had an imaginary friend when she was 6 years old? Wow. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. You've clearly failed at raising your child. Now in order to make yourself feel better you put her down and are trying so hard to make her the bad guy when it's in fact, you. Info. What was her GPA? If her grades were that terrible, how did she get a scholarship? You are the asshole and an extremely bad parent. No wonder your daughter has cut you out of her life when you showed her over and over that you didn't care for her or even love her. You punished a 6-year-old for having an imaginary friend, something which is very common and normal, and you neglected her health and well-being, and now you have the audacity to blame her for your bad parenting? You are the asshole. She got a fucking scholarship and then you pulled the plug. Not a judgment, but I wonder how shitty your parenting style is that she ended up like this. Am I the asshole for telling my daughters they don't have to wear pants around my brother-in-law? Hey everyone, 38M Dad here and I have 2 daughters. 13F Amy, 16F Ava and my wife is the same age as me. So my wife has an younger brother, let's call him Mike, he's around 32. He's my brother-in-law if you'd call it. He's an okay guy. My wife really likes him cause that's her younger brother. So today in the afternoon, me and my daughters were chilling at home in the living room just watching some TV. Then my wife comes in and she says, kids, Uncle Mike is gonna come to visit, go wear some pants. That's what they call him. My daughters like wearing shorts around the house, outside cause it's comfortable, and as a father I don't have a problem with that. Especially here in Florida heat. Before I go into me and my wife, kids talked about, etc. My daughters have told me before that Mike has given them the creeps before and often he's made them uncomfortable before and they don't feel comfortable around him. Ever since my daughters have told me that, I told my wife that he isn't welcome in our house if our kids aren't comfortable. My wife at that time, she didn't believe me, I guess. She just ignored it, you could say. Coming to what we discussed in the living room. Now my daughters said, why is he coming and why do we have to wear pants around him? My wife said, cause he's my younger brother and he's your uncle, so you better respect him and you do as I say, so I'm your mother. I told my wife, babe, the kids told me before they aren't comfortable around Mike and this is their house and they are free to wear what they want. You can't force them to change into pants, and they don't want to. They are comfortable in what they are wearing and it's fine. My wife got upset at me and told me I was being an asshole for not letting her brother come to our house and that I'm being mean and just judging him cause he's an innocent guy. But I know though what I did was good for my daughters as their safety is my #1 priority. But I also feel some guilt. Am I the asshole? Edit. Some are asking why my wife told them to cover up. My wife usually doesn't like the daughters, girls in general, to wear shorts. She doesn't like them wearing shorts cause she believes it's inappropriate and that showing legs, skin is a bad thing. So she always tries to enforce them to wear sleeves, pants, etc. Which my daughters have told me before they don't like. My daughters prefer to wear normal shirts and normal shorts. Not fully sleeved clothes, and not long pants as my wife wants them to. They like wearing shorts, they like wearing normal clothes, shirts, and as they tell me they feel comfortable in that, not the clothes their mother wants them to wear. Just wanted to clear this up for those. Edit 2. Some people are saying I should have told my wife earlier about this and all. And yes, I did. I told my wife numerous times that Mike isn't allowed in the house because, as my daughters said, they felt uncomfortable around him. I've told my wife that many times before, but she has dismissed that and just ignored it. Today when she announced he was coming, and he was on his way, I told her that he isn't coming inside my house. And since my daughters told me they don't like being near him, I told my wife she can meet him outside or wherever they want to go outside. But he's not welcome inside my house at all. That's the boundary line. And also they are free to wear what they like, because this is their house, and if they can't wear shorts around him, that's not my daughter's problem. And if he or anyone else in general makes my daughters feel uncomfortable, they aren't welcome in my house. And just saying again. And I'm definitely sure if you are a parent or at least a sensible adult you'd agree on this, hopefully. Not the asshole. If you teen daughters are not comfortable being around him, that's reason enough for him not to be in your house. Your wife can visit with him someplace else. Good luck. There's a guy on TikTok. I can't recall his name, but he makes parenting videos and his catchphrase at the end is, "Do better." He's got a video on this exact subject. He basically says don't make girls change for men because it teaches them that men's poor behavior is the woman's responsibility and how she dresses. Not the asshole. Edited to add. The TikToker is Billy vsco. If he's her brother and everything is fine, then she shouldn't be worried about what her daughters wear around him. If she's proactively telling them to cover up because he's coming over, not the asshole, but your wife is. Not the asshole. Why does your wife want them in pants if he isn't creepy? Not the asshole if a girl says an older man gives them the creeps or makes them feel uncomfortable, keep him away. Far away. Your wife can go visit her brother. Without the girls. Not the asshole. Your wife literally told them to change out of shorts into pants because he was coming over. But sure, he's not creepy at all. Wife just doesn't want to admit it or is blind and sending her daughters the wrong message. Not the asshole. Listen to your daughters. Make sure they never have to be alone with him. Not the asshole. Yeah, your wife knows about her brother being a creep, and is taking passive secondary actions like telling her daughters to wear pants, instead of calling her brother out. Am I the asshole for getting mad at my brother's girlfriend for letting her kid eat my food? For context, my brother 26 male, and I 22F, have lived in the same apartment for 3-ish years. It was a mutual decision and we split the cost of everything, 50-50. He earns more than I do, but the split cost is okay with me. His GF, 24 female, starting living with us almost a year ago, and her kid, 4F, not with my bro, comes to stay with us sometimes. This was not discussed at all, and while I don't really like kids, I don't generally mind having her around. His girlfriend doesn't share with the bills, she pitches in when she can and does her share of chores and cooking. So here's the thing. I work night shifts remotely. I buy snacks so I have something to munch on to keep me awake at night. My brother's girlfriend also stocks up on food for her kid, and this is generally classified as just for the kid. Nobody is allowed to touch it, not that anyone would steal food from the kid in our house. I also keep my own stash of cookies and the like in our common area, as I don't want to attract ants in my room. The problem is, her kid sometimes wants to eat my food. If I am there and they ask, I do share some. But I budget my stash so I have enough till my next grocery run. However, recently, I've noticed that my food gets depleted real fast even though I've been eating less. Again, I really don't mind sharing as long as people ask. I asked my brother if he's been taking my food, but he says he hasn't. He did tell me that the kid prefers my cookies to her mom gives her, so the mom has been giving her mine. I confronted his girlfriend and asked that they ask my permission next time before consuming my food. They both got mad at me, saying I shouldn't be so selfish and just share with the kid. Am I the asshole here? It is just food, but it's been my only indulgence since my budget is tight. Update. I seriously appreciate all your concern. I am working up the courage to have a sit-down talk with them on my next day off, so we have time to hash things out. I have spoken to my mom about the situation, and she is willing to take me back in since I'm working remotely anyway. Mom is living alone now, and is not comfortable letting me live alone again because of a medical condition. I broached the subject with my bro previously, after girlfriend started staying over more, but he didn't agree. He's been a food brother to me, and has taken the responsibility to check on me because of said medical condition. I'm by no means a burden, just that I tend to not tell anyone if I'm not feeling alright and try to carry my own weight myself so as not to burden the fam. 50-50 split. This is me trying to make it up to my brother, as he also willingly offered to live with me after I was hospitalized before. He also has the bigger room because of the same reason. Chores. I make little to no mess in our common area, as I keep to my room often. I do my own dishes most of the time. The girlfriend picks up after my bro, who only does heavy lifting, but not the little horse like sweeping, cooking, etc. Cookie jar. I have books in my room, which is why I'm wary of ants, bugs. But looking for a cookie jar in our next run. We generally only do big batch groceries as cases are still high where we are, and we can never be too careful even if we are all vaccinated, except the kid, OFC. I was really just wondering if I was an asshole for getting worked up over cookies, but am so grateful for the great advice and concern Ikve received. Not the asshole. First up. Why are you paying 50% when this is clearly a three-way flat share now? Also, why doesn't the kid's mom just buy the same cookies you do? Then there's no need for them to pinch yours. They are being unreasonable, but like wrongdoers everywhere they need to blame you so that they don't feel bad about themselves. Get a better, more robust cookie jar that repels ants, and take it into your room. Not the asshole. You buy your food for you, not for your brother's girlfriend's kid. It's one thing to choose to occasionally share, it's another thing entirely for them to not even ask. Also, can we talk about your brother's girlfriend not contributing to the costs of living in the apartment? Shouldn't be a 50-50 split. You should be paying a third. You're being taken advantage of. Not the asshole. I'd have a very frank convo with her and bro and say, I'm not a free grocery service for you and your kid. I do not take your food, so do not take mine. And since this problem has popped up, I'm now reminded you and your kid are over here using utilities and space that my brother never cleared with me, so let's talk your contribution to the household and ground rules for you staying here. Not the asshole. This was not discussed at all, and while I don't really like kids, I don't generally mind having her around. First asshole move. Again, I really don't mind sharing as long as people ask. Reasonable. He did tell me that the kid prefers my cookies to EHAT her mom gives her, so the mom has been giving her mine. I confronted his girlfriend and asked that they ask my permission next time before consuming my food. They both got mad at me, saying I shouldn't be so selfish and just share with the kid. Selfish? She is the one that is taking food that you bought with your own money without asking. Not the asshole. They should have asked before taking your food. If it was some kind of emergency and you haven't been around, they should have told you later and apologized. They are not entitled to just take your stuff and call it sharing. Also, why can't she just buy the cookies herself? You're right to be angry. Not the asshole. Sharing means that she should be sharing also. She isn't. You would somehow be seen as completely out of line for taking her son's snacks, but it's somehow completely expected that you happily surrender yours? No. It's almost comical that you are labeled as selfish when it's his girlfriend that is leeching off of you. It's time to lock up your cookies so the thieving girlfriend can't steal them. Not the asshole. She does not even pay the bills, plus you're not allowed to touch the food for the kid, so it's really hypocritical that she can touch your food and give it to the kid. You are definitely not the A, even not if you ask to not stay there anymore, or she needs to pay a part of the bills. Not the asshole. You are paying for that woman and child to live there, even though your brother should. And no, they are just taking your food? Have him pay at least 2/3 of rent and bills. And if the girl likes your snacks, her mom can buy her those. Am I the asshole for chipping dog poop into my neighbor's front yard? I bought my house about 3 months ago. When I moved in, I noticed there were a couple dozen lumps of dried dog dew on one side of my front yard. Before I mowed the first time, I went out and picked them up with a plastic bag over my hand. The next day I noticed a couple more fresh turds on my lawn, so I kept an eye out for the culprit. It didn't take long to realize that my next-door neighbors have some sort of Benji-looking fluff ball of a pooch that they let out unattended a couple of times a day. The dog would sniff around for a while, then run over into my yard and poop every time. It was as if he were trained that way. The daily poo accumulation rate seemed to be 2 or 3. I hardly knew my neighbors, so I was hesitant to approach them with this sort of issue right out of the gate. I waited a couple of weeks, but I made sure to go out and pick up the poop while my neighbors were outside. One Saturday afternoon, I saw my neighbor out front while I was tending the garden. I said hello and started a simple conversation. After a few minutes, I mentioned the poop and said it would be appreciated if they could pick up after their dog. My neighbor laughed and said that's not from his dog. That there is a stray dog in the neighborhood that does that everywhere. What to do? I decided to train my video doorbell to the poop zone and set the sensitivity to high. Within a week, I had a robust collection of video evidence incriminating my neighbor's dog. I'm no poo pathologist, but it's also pretty clear to me that all the poo in my yard came from the same doggo bunghole. Armed with mountains of evidence, I took the opportunity to approach my neighbor's wife when she was walking the dog. I didn't go into forensic details, but simply asked her if she wouldn't mind picking up after her dog in my yard. She also denied it, and the conversation ended awkwardly at best. I spent several more days noodling over what to do and decided to take matters into my own hands. I pulled a pitching wedge out of my golf bag and proceeded to chip dog scat from my front yard into my neighbors. Beyond solving my immediate problem, I could also work a bit on my short game. This went on for some time. It became a weekly ritual that I sort of enjoyed. I did it without shame and in broad daylight. Everything was copacetic until last Saturday. I was out doing my thing when my neighbor's wife barged out her front door screaming. She told me that I can't do that and called me every name in the book, including the obligatory a whole word. I tried to keep my cool and told her that I was simply returning what was theirs. Last thing I heard was that she was calling the police as she left. I continued and finished up my chipping session. I never heard from the police, I haven't seen my neighbors' faces, and I haven't seen another poop on my lawn. I'll probably have a horrible relationship with my neighbors forever now, but my immediate problem is solved. Am I the asshole? Edit. Lots of discussion about whether or not I showed the video. In my second encounter with the neighbor, I told them I had video of it. She said something like, "What?" The conversation escalated to awkward and ended shortly after. So I did not show the video, but I did tell them I had it. Not the asshole, you were simply returning their property. Not the asshole, you are just kindly returning their property. However, you could have been a little more diplomatic, considering these will be your neighbors for some time and it would be best not to make them enemies. Maybe you could have shown them the video or some photos as evidence. Not the asshole. But get offense. Not the asshole. Excellent solution to a nasshole irresponsible neighbor. Not the asshole, you tried very nicely on more than one occasion to get them to pick up after their dog. Not even keep it from your yard. Just pick up after it. They denied it every time, knowing after the second time that you have photographic evidence that their dog is the culprit. Not the asshole. Excellent work. Classic petty revenge fodder right here. When I was a kid, we have an area outside our house that loads of teenagers congregated on each evening. My mum told them that she didn't mind them being there but to please take their rubbish home with them. If they didn't, she would collect it and dump it in their parents' gardens. They ignored her. Mum collected a few months' worth of rubbish. Took it under cover of darkness and dumped it in a few of their parents' gardens. The littering stopped and the kids, now adults, commented on how good my mum got them. Not the asshole, by the way, but do show them the video evidence you have. Not the asshole, we did the same thing but used a garden spade. Long before video doorbell cameras, but we watched the same damn dog shit on our lawn almost daily, other neighbors, too. The owners couldn't have cared less. So, each time prior to mowing the lawn, we had to return the favor.